More cases of the UK variant have been detected in the country. One of them was found in Cebu. The UP OCTA research group calls for strict border control, this following the IATF's move of allowing more foreign nationals to enter the country. A Mandaluyong court junked charges against two of the so-called Human Rights Day 7. And the Education Department admits that children, or rather teachers, need more training, especially on cultural sensitivities. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your day. I'm Riza Diaz. The Health Department reports 8 additional cases of the more infectious UK variant, bringing the total variant cases in the country to 25. The DOH said that 3 of these cases were from Bontoc Mountain Province and 2 were detected in La Trinidad, Benguet. 2 others were returning OFWs. Now, the 8th additional case is from Liloan in Cebu, whose sample was collected last January 17. This is the first UK variant in the Visayas region. Now, 2 of the 3 new UK variant cases in Bontoc were close contacts of a variant case in the town. The 3rd case linked to the Bontoc cluster is still being verified. 1 out of the 2 new cases in La Trinidad was a relative of a B117 variant patient. Now, the other case is an 84-year-old patient who had no known travel history nor contact with any variant case. He was reported to have died last January 24. Now, moreover, the 2 returning overseas Filipinos who tested positive for the more infectious variant have already recovered. The DOH assures the public that it will coordinate with LGUs concerned for immediate case investigation and intensified contact tracing. The UP OCTA research team expresses concern over the IATF's decision to ease travel restrictions to foreign nationals. Professor Guido David says that the government must not be complacent as the entry of more foreign travelers may lead to a surge in cases. David adds that strict border controls should be implemented to prevent new COVID-19 variants from coming into the country.
The need for strict border controls, kasi we cannot really let the variant, or I mean, even the virus, or even especially the variant, enter and spread in the country, because this could be a big risk to our economy and a big risk to our pandemic situation in the country.
He also said that the COVID-19 situation in the country is still manageable, but also warns of a possible surge.
Our situation right now is manageable, but it's tenuous, and disrupting the stability of the situation, the pandemic situation in the country, could lead to a surge. This could happen anytime. So, kumbaga, a threat of a surge is always present, especially in Metro Manila.
The country tries to fight off COVID-19, senators filed bills implementing vaccine passports. But certain law groups warn that it may infringe upon the constitutional rights of the people. JC Cosico with the report.
City Hall employee Kennedy Asis is keen on getting a COVID-19 jab. She's one of the more than 80,000 Manileños who have signed up for the city's free inoculation. Going out for work daily, she's wary of contracting the virus and infecting her family.
At least somehow medyo gumaan yung loob ko na hindi ko mahawaan yung pamilya ko.
Once vaccinated, Kiana will receive the city's vaccine passport. The ID contains the vaccinee's name, address, birthday, inoculation date, and vaccine brand. It's accessible online.
Kasi diba sa mga establishments ang nire-require minsan swab test kapag magta-travel ka sa ganitong certain place. So this can be used at airports, seaports, office establishments, sa mga places kung saan ka mag-a-apply for work.
A measure on vaccine passports has been filed by Senator Grace Poe last month. Senate Bill 1994 requires vaccinees to supply their basic information. It mandates the IATF and concerned agencies to issue rules and regulations on the list of activities that shall require the use of vaccine passports, include domestic and international travel, access to business establishments and public places, as well as public gatherings. Poe says this will help overseas workers.
Alam ko sa Dubai at sa iba't ibang mga lugar, hinihingi ito sa kanilang mga empleyado. So, ito naman ay para din sa kaligtasan at para din sa pagkakaroon ng trabaho ng ating mga kababayan.
For Integrated Bar of the Philippines President Attorney Domingo Hayosa, there should be a balance between public interest and constitutional rights when coming up with a vaccine passport.
There might be a clash between the government plan or policy of vaccination and the constitutional right of people to freedom of travel and their right to privacy and their right to their bodies, because we cannot force people to be vaccinated if they have reasons or even fears about the vaccine.
Poe sees this as a possible consideration in crafting the law.
Isa yan sa mga pwede natin idagdag sa ating batas na hindi naman lahat magkakaroon ng bakuna. So kung meron silang dahilan kung bakit ayaw nila, lalo na kung ito ay medical, ay hindi naman ito magiging balakid sa kanila.
The Health Department clarifies the concept of a global vaccine passport is still being studied.
Kailangan muna natin malaman kung ano ang magiging direksyon globally nitong passports na sinasabi. Will it be required as you travel and enter into one country to the other?
Here in the Philippines, standard vaccine cards with a QR code will be rolled out. This may be presented if an individual needs a proof of COVID-19 vaccination. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
More variants of the coronavirus are being discovered around the globe. The question now is, how does this affect the current vaccine development against the virus? Let's watch this to find out.
You know, we have our main variants that everyone talks about, the UK, the South African, the Brazil variant. We're seeing other viruses that are unrelated to those, acquiring some of the mutations that we think are important for these new variant spreads. And we're also seeing the variants accumulate a few more mutations. So right now it looks like there's 5 or 6 of these variants that I would say are of concern out there because they possess mutations that we know will either affect transmission or would affect the ability of antibodies to bind to them. Now, the good news is some of the studies, particularly some of the more recent vaccines, have been looking at efficacy against these variants, and most of the vaccines continue to have some efficacy against the variants. It drops a little bit compared to the older strains, but the efficacy is still there. So I think the message when it comes to vaccines is if you're online, stay online. When you get called to get online, I would get online because these vaccines are going to provide protection and they're going to help reduce the spread of the older strains as well as the variants.
Andrew, we also seem to be hearing that a number of companies or even countries are looking at a combinations of their vaccine shots to see whether they're more effective. I think the latest news was Russia talking to China. Could it be the right way forward?
Absolutely. It takes some clinical trials to make sure that you can go across these vaccine platforms as efficiently as some of the within-platform boost strategies are. But anything we can do to maximize the number of vaccines that we could use together will help us move forward to that goal of getting as many people as possible with the highest level of vaccine of immune protection, because that's what we need to get into the human population.
Andrew, the only question really that people want to know is how do we slow death rates, and of course when might life return back to normal? We have a new vaccine tracker here at Bloomberg, and it tells me in 7.4 years at today's vaccine rates. But how much will the rates actually accelerate?
Yeah, so this is the important thing about models. You know, models tell us where we might be going based on the data that we have right now. And Vaccine trackers are really important to help us understand what might be the best way to roll out vaccine and how the rollout will change. It's clear that the vaccine trackers will be changing their projections as we continue to increase our manufacturing capacity. And something as simple as even the J&J vaccine coming on the market could have a massive change in terms of the timeline in which we could get to a protective level of immunity in the population.
And we'll be back with more stories after the break here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. A Mandaluyong Regional Trial Court dismissed the charges against journalist Lady Ann Salem and labor organizer Rodrigo Esparago. They were previously charged with illegal possession of firearms and explosives and were among those arrested during International Human Rights Day last December. Presiding Judge Monique Cosimbing Ignacio reminded law enforcers to enact their duties while observing the rights of the people. The court deemed insufficient the testimonies of the informant and law enforcers involved in the operation. The trial court also declared the search warrants that led to their arrest null and void for being a quote general warrant. Salem and Esparago are only two of the Human Rights 7 arrested on the same day. The Education Department said they do not tolerate discrimination, especially on materials used for distance learning. Recall that a DepEd module recently drew flack for depicting igorots in a discriminatory manner. In an interview with Sa Totoo Lang, Education Undersecretary Revsi Escobedo says such forms of discrimination should be corrected immediately. He added that the module in question is not actually a DepEd sanctioned module but an activity sheet independently made by one teacher.
Ang DepEd, nung malaman ito, ay kagyat na nag-investigate, tinukoy kung saan nanggaling, at ngayon ay pinull out na natin yung activity sheet na yon, and may mga pagko-correct na tayong ginagawa. Dahil ang ating ginagawa ngayon mula first quarter, kapag merong mga modules na may mali, pinupull out natin, kino-correct, and then nililinaw at iwinawas to sa ating mga bata.
Escobedo also admits that the lack of training for teachers lead to wrongful depictions of ethnic groups and minorities in modules.
Kailangan talaga ng isang malalimang pag-aaral at training o kaya mga pagsasanay nang sa gayon ay hindi ito maulit dahil napaka-sensitive po ng mga ganitong bagay.
Most of us find ourselves looking forward the day the pandemic is finally over. But when exactly might this happen? Based on current global vaccination rate, Bloomberg estimates it might take 7 years. That's how long it will take to inoculate 75% of the global population. Israel is already headed for 75% coverage in just 2 months, the fastest in the globe. The United States will get there just in time before the year ends. But not all vaccination programs are created equal, with richer Western countries far ahead. U.S. science officials such as Anthony Fauci have suggested it will take 70 to 85% coverage of the population for things to return to normal. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 9 in the morning as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.